This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi Glatstein. Bruchim Abom to the Kollel Agar de Pirka here in Kew Garden Hills, New York.
Yeah.
We're already holding in Chodesh Adar a while, and we have 4 more Mondays before Purim, and it's never too early to speak about the Purim story. So here we go. We begin with the comments of Rav Shlomo Alkabetz. Shlomo Alkabetz, of course, is the great Paita and the author of the Chadoidi. He was born in Salonika, Turkey, which is now Greece. But back then it wasn't.
I know.
And he was born in 1505. He was Niftar in Sfas in 1584, a brother-in-law of the great Ramak, Rav Moshe Cordovero. And in the year 1529, as a present to his future Shver, his future father-in-law, he sent a gift, a commentary on Megillas Esther called Manois Halevi. And this commentary, probably the most extensive commentary on the Megillah, was written by Rav Shlomo Alkabetz and is quoted by many Gedolim after him, not only as a Perush on the Megillah, but even Halacha L'maaseh. So for instance, the Chassam Sofer in his Tshuvos quotes some of the Chidushim of the Manois Halevi.
Rebbe, on the side,
Yeah.
do you know the Jews of Salonika were so strong? They were the ones who blew up a crematorium. Did you know that?
I didn't.
I saw that crematorium.
I didn't know that.
They're very strong.
Mm-hmm.
They were the ones, the first people who were the port in Haifa also.
Oh, okay, very interesting. So, the Manois Halevi brings down a fascinating question on the Megillah, and that is, he wants to know if you are in tune with some of the details of the Mishteh of Achashverosh, you'll notice that he was certainly trying to please the participants of the party, and certainly allow all the participants to enjoy and experience every type of pleasure. So he was trying to satiate their sense of sight with beautiful tapestries. Also the Nesivos HaMishpah, in his commentary on the Megillah Sesarim, he says, not only with tapestries, but with zainos that he set up. He was trying to satisfy their sense of smell, where there was all types of food and fragrant aromas. He was trying to satisfy their sense of hearing, of taste with delicious food. He was trying to satisfy all of their senses. However, there is one item that is conspicuously absent from the party of Achashverosh, and that is, nothing in the Megillah is described about any music being played at the party of Achashverosh. And the question is, why? After all, you can't have a good party without music. I mean, who makes any type of party without music? And so it would seem rather strange that Achashverosh here, he's trying to satisfy everyone, Kertzayin ish va'ish, and he doesn't have any music at the party. Every other sense, whether it's reach, whether it's re'iyah, whether it's mishush, the Manois Halevi says, he had beautiful beds, very fine linen. He had, everything was experienced, and why is there no music? So interestingly, the Manois Halevi is not the only one who asked this question. Actually, if you look at number 3, the Maram Shif is known as one of the most laser sharp, concise comments on Shas. In fact, the Maram Shif has very much gone out of style because people like to learn Lamdos and Svaras and Chakiras. But really, if you want to have the deepest understanding just of the Shakla V'Tarya of the Gemara, you need to know the Maram Shif. In Chavetz Chaim, they're very into the Maram Shif. Also in Skver, they're very into the Maram Shif. In fact, the Skver Chassid recently wrote like 4-volume work on the Maram Shif on Ksubas. So anyway, Maram Shif at the end of Masechta Chulin wrote drashos. That's one thing that Maram Shif is not famous for, but he also wrote drashos at the end of Masechta Chulin. It's called Drushim Nechmadim at the end of Chulin, and he's also bothered by this question. He says, why was there no music at the Suda of Achashverosh? He says like this: one of the criteria of how Achashverosh orchestrated this event was he wanted to do Lasos Kertzoin Ish Ve'ish. Now, let's say somebody goes to a party, they don't want to eat, so they don't have to eat. Let's say they don't want to look, so they don't have to look. But what are you going to do if there's music, you're going to hear it against your will, and therefore music did not fit the criteria of Achashverosh's party. You can't play music. What if somebody doesn't want that kind of music? Or, he says, he look at number 3, he says, you're going to have to hear it against your will. Or the Maharam Shif says, of course there was music. It goes without saying there was music. It was obvious there was music. You can't have a party without music, and therefore that's the one item that was left out because that is self-understood. And then the Maharam Shif says another reason why there's no music is since the party was la'asos kirtzain ish v'ish, where Achashverosh did not impose on anybody to do any avera against their will, kirtzain Haman or kirtzain Mordechai. In other words, the food was kosher, everything was kosher. Achashverosh realized that to cause the Jews to stumble, he has to get them to sin on their own. So if he's going to play music, that would be coercing them to violate the Torah. You know why? Because the Gemara in Gittin says that from the time of the Churim Beis HaMikdash, we took a shvua, b'shir la yishtu yayin, that we would not listen to music at a party, and therefore if he would impose music on the people, he would be forcing us to violate our own principles. Rabbi Glatstein, these are a few answers of the Maharam Shif, but let us explore the answer of Rabbi Shlomo Alkabetz in the Manos Halevi. Look in number 1 on your sheet. The Hagoyin Harav Reb Meir ben Arama Kasav Divrei Tzadikim Zeh. He wrote correct things. Ube Inyan Zeh. He says, Eich Neschakim on the 3rd line. Lahamti b'Mishnah hu arevas kol chush mechamesha chushim. You see how Achashverosh tried to please all the 5 senses. Ad shela yachzar kolba, until nothing was missing. Kederach shahi mevarchim ala mugmar achar achila. At a good meal, after you finish, you smell a good sense. L'sameach gam halev. Says the Manos Halevi, skip a line, V'zeki himtzi v'hiskim shia makam ha'suda b'chatzar ginas b'isan hamelach. He orchestrated that the suda should be in the courtyard. Asher ein safek sheim subay kol minei hamorachim anom. There were certainly fragrant aromas. Kareach sada asher berach Hashem. And next line, v'chein tikein yuriyo isnois v'chol minei gavanim chor karpas v'sches v'argaman. He certainly fixed and prepared beautiful tapestries, different colors, which would be very pleasing in the sunlight. And next line, he made very nice beds to satisfy the sense of touch. And so we have 4 out of the 5 senses. But we're missing one. What happened to the music? Next paragraph. Ani shamati mi pizakin. Says Rav Shlomo Alkabetz, I heard from a old sage. Tam nifla la asher nifgad hanigun v'sudahi. A wondrous reason why music was absent. V'atzigenu hinei b'toisefes toiv al anishma. Says Rav Shlomo Alkabetz, I will add to what I heard. V'oifen yusag tam, in an understandable way. And that is the following. What was Achashverosh's purpose in making the Suda? He wanted to get us to sin. He wanted to cause us to stumble. Says Rav Shlomo Alkabetz 2 lines down, V'lama shahayu anigan v'hamushika. You know what mushika is? Very good. See? Only the best over here. Mushika! Since we know that music is davar yarav lanefesh, why is music so sweet? Why do people like music? If I ask you, why is music enjoyable?
Spiritual. It moves us.
What is it? You know why? Because before a person was created, says Rav Shlomo Alkabetz, when the neshama was in Shamayim, you know what you hear in Shamayim? In Shamayim, all you hear all day is malachim singing shira to Hashem. And that experience that the neshama has in Shamayim is so programmed into the soul that every time the soul hears it, it is elevated to a different existence. It's elevated to life before this measly world in Olam Hazeh. That is the connection the neshama has to music. It says, you know why? Because we were accustomed to it when we were upstairs. Says Rav Shlomo Alkabetz, You don't believe what I'm telling you? Anyone who does not deny the simple interpretation of the psukim of the Nevi'im will acknowledge the fact that upstairs in Shamayim what's taking place is Shiurim v'Tishbachas Hashem. Malachei Morim Poischem Espiem. The angels above, they open up their mouth. Mavarchim, Meshabchim, Mefarim, Besafa Brua, Va'eshmas Kol Kanfeim, with the beautiful sounds of their wings. There are some people, they like music so much that their soul is so elevated that you could hit them, you could smack them, they're in a different world. They're in a different world. It's like they're in a self-imposed coma. They're in a trance. Some people fall asleep. That's why I don't get insulted when people fall asleep on my shiur. Doesn't mean they don't like the shiur. I mean, it's so sweet to them. It's like music to them. That's why I never get insulted. Because the nefesh is contemplates l'shmoy el harina ad shetanuach haguf. The body begins to rest. In other words, the neshama is so excited and the body is so put at rest. Kifeger meis, like a corpse. Kiraya yoisai. Then the Alkabetz says an unbelievable thing. Davar ayam benayra. You have a little baby. Na 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 na. Right? What do? Lullaby. You sing a song to the baby. What does the baby do? Falls asleep. Why is the baby so comforted by music? The answer is because the baby just was in Shamayim, and he still has the music of Shamayim ringing in his ears. So the baby is much more in tune with his previous connection to Olam Haba than a regular person. As soon as the baby starts to hear music, mi yitneni ki yache kedem. Right? The baby says, I remember the good old days. But you sing music to an adult, it's hard to remember so long ago. It's hard to remember what you ate for breakfast, let alone what happened before you were born. So he says, Kamoi b'ktanim yoinke shadayim. Like nursing young. Ki lo yishanu, they will not sleep. Im lo yishmu es kol harina. Unless they hear the voice of song. That's why people don't know. They put on Baby Bach. Baby Bach's not what they're playing in Shamayim, right? Baby Mozart. No, they're singing in Shamayim. Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. That you have to know what the right songs to sing. When you sing to a baby, he rests in his bed, va'arva shenasam, and their sleep is sweet. Why? Listen to these words. Liois, tziltzul, hakoil, v'hanoyam, adayin, nikvas benafsham. The music of Shamayim is still ringing in their ears, is still stirring their souls. Lemiyot zman hafrada mimenu, because of the small amount of time that elapsed between now and when they were there. He says like this, or a sick person, one who is ill, the physical sensations are dulled and waned. Someone who is ill, his koichos haguf are weaker, his koichos of soul are stronger, and therefore to him music is much more powerful and effective than for a young person, for a healthy person. Therefore, says Rav Shlomo Alkabetz, the goal of Achashverosh was to get people to eat more and more and more. And if somebody's eating, and all of a sudden you hear music, the hamburger is going to drop. Whatever you're eating is going to drop. You're not going to be focused on the food. You're just going to be focused on the music. And the music is going to interfere with the kavanah of Achashverosh to get the people to eat. And therefore, this party was missing something. It was missing music. He says, Lochein, nifkat ha'tainug hazeh min ha'suda, v'imravhu, laval yimtza misha yimna melechol, lest somebody not eat. Right, at a symphony orchestra, they're not. Nobody's walking around. Hot dogs here, right? Nobody's selling food, concessions, popcorn. There's no eating then, because if you're going to eat, you can't appreciate the music. So this is the answer of Rabbi Shlomo Alkabetz, that the reason why there is no music has a very powerful pull on the soul, and it will distract the participants from the intended purpose of the Suda.
The score doesn't work with the Maram Shif.
What?
The score doesn't work with the Maram Shif.
Maram Shif gave different answers. Maram Shif didn't give this answer, right? Maram Shif said either there definitely was music, or the Jews had swore they're not going to listen to it. Okay.
Falls apart.
Interestingly, comes the Lakewood Mashgiach, the Matisyahu Solomon, and he is troubled by this answer of Reb Shlomo Alkabetz, and he's bothered by the fact that if Achashverosh's intention was to get the Jewish people to sin, you would think then that music would have been his most powerful weapon and his most powerful tool in his arsenal to try to engender sin. After all, we all know that there are certain types of music that only elicit types of loose and taiva and desire. In fact, certain beats and certain sounds are known and proven to be connected to certain types of desires that people have. So if anything, if Achashverosh's plan was to get Klal Yisrael to sin, in fact, the Megillah Sasarim is a commentary on Megillah Esther written by the Nesivos. He writes very clearly that the entire intention of the Suda was to get Klal Yisrael to sin. He writes, look at number 2, on the pasuk, why is Achashverosh inviting all of these political figures to his party? So he writes that the purpose of the party, and the reason why he invited all of these officials, because the whole purpose of the party was Rak al Yisrael lahachtiam ulahar alahem. He only wanted to get us to sin. And therefore he invited all the government officials of all the lands to get good advice and good counsel how to best persuade us to sin. That's why he made a meal for 7 days inviting Chel Paras Umadai. And when the party was over and he saw his success, he made additional parties for the people in Shushan to get them to sin more. It says in the Sivos, if you look in the 3rd paragraph in number 2, Chor Karpas Uscheles Achos B'Chavlei Vutz V'Argaman. Why is the Megillah telling us about the ambiance of the party? It's to teach what Achashverosh's plan was to try to incite sin. He made them sit on Butz V'Argaman. Butz V'Argaman is Shatnez. He wanted them to sit on the Shatnez. He was trying to be machzor them in Chet. And he made them with very nice colors to attract their attention, because it wasn't just tapestries and curtains that were hanging, but next to them, says the Megillah Sasarim, he situated zoinos, so that once he drew the attention of the Jews through these nice ornaments, they would look at the zoinos. So as for Matisyahu Solomon, if the whole purpose of the Suda was to cause sin, then it would seem that Achashverosh left out perhaps the most powerful tool to engender sin. So Rabbi said this brings us into a very interesting discussion this morning, and that is, yeah.
Is there an issue to sit on Shabbos?
Yes. Yeah.
It's not open?
Yeah, because it could warm you, and you're something you sit on creates heat. So even if it's not, it can be, yeah. So Rabbi Sai,
especially if you sink in.
Especially if it's cushiony.
Yeah.
In fact, the story goes that when the Stipler was going to meet his potential Kala, right, the Chazon Ish's sister, he was on a train, but he didn't want to sit on the train because there was a shatnez, so he stood the whole time. But unfortunately, the first meeting with his potential Kala, it was not. I mean, it's good for Shalom Bayis, but he was not up for that date, right?
Oh boy.
But Baruch Hashem, things worked out. Okay. Anyway, so this brings us into a very interesting discussion, and that is understanding the concept of music in Jewish thought and in our Kisvei HaKodesh, in all of our Jewish literature. How do we understand the function and the tachlis and the purpose of music and what music's effect is upon us? We know all the way at the beginning of Bereshis, it says in Parak Dalet, Pasuk Chaf Aleph, Hu avi kol toifes kinar ve'ugav. It says about the early generations from the descendants of Adam Arishon, that one of the generations, he was the one who invented the kinar, the lur, ve'ugav, the harp. Mine klei naginos. Ibn Ezra says these are types of instruments. Vehi chachma gedola. That music is a great wisdom, is a great discipline. In other words, music is not just a talent, but but it's a chachma. It's a body of knowledge.
Didn't David Melech play the horn?
He did. But you see from this Ibn Ezra that the concept of music it's like chemistry, biology, physics. Music is considered a discipline of knowledge. In fact, there's an amazing Ramban. The Ramban wrote a sefer called Shar HaGamol, and commenting in Ois Yud Zayin in the Shar HaGamol, the Ramban writes on the Gemara in Erechim. The Gemara talks about different types of harps. One place it says the harp had 7 strings, and one place it says the harp had 8 strings, and one place it said the harp had 10 strings. So the Gemara in Erechim says like this, that the harp of the Beis HaMikdash was 7 strings, like the Pasuk says in Tehillim, Soiva Semachois Espanecha, Al Tikri Soiva Ela Shava. And then the Gemara continues, but it says, Lam Natseach Al Ha-Shminis. Yeah, the harp in the time of Mashiach will be of 8 strings. That's why the concept of Teva is associated with the number 7 days of the week. But the concept of Lamala Minat Teva is the number 8. But the harp of Olam Haba will have 10 strings. Like we say on Shabbos, Alei Asar, V'alei Novel, Alei Higayon, V'chinar. Says the Ramban, look at these words. Says the Ramban, Ufeirush Ho'inyan Hazeh, Ki Kinar Uchlei Hazem Rabba Mikdash. What were all these instruments doing in the Beis HaMikdash? Why all of a sudden in the Beis HaMikdash are we playing instruments? Says the Ramban, Remez Lahasagas Hamachshava She'nisleis Baruach. The instruments alluded to various acquisitions of thought which are connected to the spirit. Says Ramban, Ve'ein bagashmi yozdak kumuzika. There is nothing more subtle, there's nothing more fine in this world than music. Music is considered the most spiritual of all physical things. There is nothing more dak, there's nothing more subtle than music. Music is the most spiritual of the physical. You can't put your finger on it. It's not tangible. It's not quantifiable. Like the Pasuk says in the Sefer, he quotes the Sefer Yitzira, Koil, V'dibor, V'ruach, sound, speech, wind, Zehu Ruach HaKodesh. Says the Ramban, V'nei ba'olam hazeh yasigu ha'chacham Ruach HaKodesh sheva sfiros. What's the meaning that right now the musical instrument has 7 strings, and la'asad lavai b'mais HaMashiach will have 8 strings, and in the Achros Hayom will have 10. Says Ramban, right now in this world we recognize and we can understand 7 spheros of the Rebbeinu Shalom's existence, 7 manifestations. And these were alluded to in the Beis HaMikdash, in the Mishkan, in the Menorah that had 7 neiros. Also Bilam alluded to this, says Ramban, when he says Eis Shivas HaMizbachos. But b'mais HaMashiach we will comprehend an additional sphera, which is the 8th sphera. And in Olam Haba, our comprehension of the Rebbeinu Shalom will be complete. We will understand 10 spheros. So the musical instruments actually alluded to understandings of Hashem. In other words, music is not just something you listen to or you get elevated from, but in a way there's a certain chachma and a certain comprehension which is only understood through the medium of music. In fact, Rabbi Yisrael Mishkalav, a Talmud of the Vilna Gaon, he writes in his Hakdama to the Pa'as HaShulchan, he says, Kayamar, that the Vilna Gaon said, all disciplines are needed to understand Torah. Right? There's a concept that there are 7 disciplines of Chachma. They are all required to understand Torah fully. Kol hachachmos nitzrachim l'Torasin hakdosha v'klulim ba v'yediyam kulam l'tachlisam. And knowing them is necessary to understanding the Torah. And you know what they are? You ready? Number 1, algebra. Number 2, mishulashim.
Geometry together.
Trigonometry, maybe. Yeah, v'handasa, mathematics. V'chachmas, musika. Says the Goin, v'shibcha harbehu. The Goin praised very much the discipline of music. He would say that most secrets of the Torah and most reasoning of the Torah and most secrets of the Shir Leviim and most secrets of Tikkunei Zayar you can't know if you don't understand music. The Gra would say, Roiv Tamei Torah, most of the Ta'amim of the Torah, and the secrets of the Shiur Levium, and the secrets of Tikkunei Zayar, you can't understand without knowing music. And through the knowledge of music, it is possible for a person to die. If a person plummets the depth of music, their soul could become so attached to Hashem and the sweetness of it that they could actually leave this world. But on the other hand, you could be mechaye mesim through the knowledge of music. And he would say, when Moshe Rabbeinu came down from Har Sinai, you know what he brought with him? Not only did he bring Torah, he brought Nigunim down with him from Har Sinai.
Where is that?
At Mount Sinai, in the Sinai Peninsula, south of the Holy Land.
Okay.
Where is this says the Parsha Shulchan, who Amar Kama Nigunim v'Chama Midos Hevi Moshe Rabbeinu me Har Sinai v'Hasham Rikam. All the other music that you hear today is just a distortion of the original Nigunim that Moshe Rabbeinu brought down from Har Sinai. So an amazing thing. By the way, the Radak writes, in Tehillim, many of the prakim begin with the word Lam Natseach. Many of them begin Mizmar. Many of them Beneginois. What are these expressions? Lam Natseach. What's the expression Beneginois? What's the expression Al Hashminis? Says the Radak, Amar Chazal. He's going on the fourth parak of Tehillim, Lam Natseach. Beneginois, Mizmar LaDavid. Amar Chazal, HaMizmar Hazeh, Ne'amar B'shloisha Minei Shvach. 3 types of praise are employed. You have Nitzchai, Nigun, and Mizmar. V'hanira means, Ki hamnatseach hu asher hayu ala Shiurim. He was the conductor. V'al yedei hamenatzchim hayu, ne'amarim hamizmarim. Through the conductor, the Mizmarim was said. It's not like David HaMelech just said a Mizmar of Tehillim. He took a conductor, and he needed a conductor not only to play the song, but to bring out the idea of the Mizmar. A conductor was needed. The conductor delivered and administered to the singers. That's why you find Lam Natzech, but not Lam Shiur or Lam Nagen. It belonged to the conductor, and it was delivered and administered to others under them. Says Radak, V'yesh al kli hanikra shminis. There was a special kli called the shminis. And through this kli, the shir and the nigun was said. And each mizmar was connected to a different instrument. Ki chachma gedoyla haisa. In other words, if you wanted to arouse a certain hasaga and a certain feeling and a certain understanding in the mizmar, different kelim were needed. You needed one type of instrument for one type of mizmar and one type of instrument for another type of mizmar. So you say, I don't get it. I don't have any understanding of why one mizmar in Tehillim needs a shminis, and one needs a menatzeach, and one needs a nigun. The answer is because you have no understanding of the mizmar of Tehillim. That's why you have no understanding. Says Rav Matisyahu Solomon that he heard from a zaken that if you don't understand why a certain musical instrument is needed for a certain mizmar, that means you don't understand the mizmar. You can learn all the perushim and all the mafarshim. You are clueless in terms of understanding Tehillim. Says Radak, it's a chachma gedoyla. In order to understand the connection, in other words, every mizmar is trying to bring out a different idea, a different thought, a different comprehension, and therefore a different instrument was needed. Look at number 10, and this is where we start to delve into the subject. Zamru maskil. You ever hear that expression in Tehillim? Zamru maskil. Now, by the look of some musicians today, you would think a maskil is the furthest thing from their zemer. Right? Traditionally, people who are into music are often not into haskala. Haskala, what I mean, the intellect side of it. In other words, often people associate the music with the arts, and the arts are not usually associated with disciplines of the intellect. People say either I'm a math brain or I'm an art brain. I'm right-brained or left, right? I'm a righty or a lefty. But in Tehillim we see, no. Zamru maskil. Music, comprehension. Says Meiri, Kilaymar, Zamru kol maskil, umaskil shabachem. Every intelligent person should sing, Oy ha'inyan Kilaymar, Zamru loy zemer simcha hamoinis. Not just folk song. Aval zemer ma'oirer leiv. Music that arouses the heart, v'noisein seichel l'shaymim. Music that gives intellect. So the Meiri is introducing a new concept. The concept is music offers thought. Music offers thought. So Rabbi Glatstein, this is the Shiur. You ready? Let's clear a chakira. And this is a chakira that Ramat Solomon in the Sefer Matnas Chaim, this is something that he is delving into. When we say that music offers thought, what does that mean? Does it offer thought that you never thought of before? Is music giving a person new ideas and new insights and new comprehension of things that they never thought of before? Or no? Music cannot teach a person any new wisdom. All it could do is bring out ideas that you already have. Which means a person may have in their heart certain thoughts, certain ideas. Let's say, for example, Avas Hashem. Every person has in their heart, buried deep down, Avas Hashem. The question is, you're not really in touch with it. We're not really feeling it. So what music will do is, music has the capacity to access a deep buried thought and bring it out to the forefront.
Do it.
On the other hand, people have within them buried desire. And what music will do is, it will fish out and access improper feelings and bring that to the forefront. In other words, the chakira is, does music make you think thoughts you never had before? Or make you desire things you never desired before? Or does music merely bring to the forefront what's already embedded in your heart?
You saw Shiurim with something.
What's an nafkamina? Nafkamina halach lamaisa. There is an age-old machlokes. Can you sing to Jewish words and to holy words nigunim of the Goyim? Can you take... So you say, I hope so, because you may not be familiar, but kemat, ruba de ruba of the nigunim that we sing come from non-Jewish sources.
Yeah.
And the raya is, says Ramat Solomon, that the songs that come from Sephardic countries, they sound Arabic.
They do.
And the songs that come from Poland and Germany sound like Renaissance music. And the songs of any country in the world are influenced. And I'm not going to get into which countries and which chasidus, but there's no question that there's an effect of the music of a certain location affects greatly the songs that the Jews are singing. In fact, Minhag Yisrael is to allow using the songs of Goyim for Kedusha and Kaddish. But it is machlokes achronim. The Chida brings down in the Birkei Yosef that is it permitted? He says, the Birkei Yosef in Arachaim, Siman Tov Kuf Samach, whether it's a waltz or a march or whatever songs there are, they are greatly influenced. Even the Kriyas HaTorah. Why do Sfardim lean differently than Ashkenazim? Moshe Rabbeinu came down from Har Sinai with two types of laning. Why does one type of laning sound Middle Eastern and one type of laning sound European? Says the Birkei Yosef, says the Chida, B'Sefer Masei Rekeach, Parak Ches, Mehilchos Tefillah, Nishal, Al HaMeshorim Kaddish Kedusha, L'Shirei Nachrim. Could you sing Kaddish and Kedusha to Goyish Negunim? Ve'herich le'asar. The Maser Rekech is very lengthy, and he says you're not allowed to. And he brings the Maram Di Lunsano from the Sefer Shtei Yados, Daf Kuf, that he writes in the name of the Sefer Chazidim that someone who has a beautiful voice should be careful not to sing Nigunim of Goyim. Now, he never said not to sing Goyish songs. Of course, you're not supposed to sing Goyish songs. the question is, are you allowed to sing Goyish Nagunim? And the Maram Dilun Santo said from the Sefer Hasidim, you should be careful not to.
Is it general niggin, or is this like
a Goyish Niggin?
a church niggin?
Anything, any non-Jewish song, any non-Jewish song. Well, the Chidah says that the Masei Roikech did not quote the Maram Dilun Sano accurately. Why? Because Maram Dilun Sano writes, that is why I composed most of my songs with Arabic tunes. And says Maram Dilun Sano, I see that many Chachamim complain about the fact that in the shuls they're singing Kaddish and Kedusha to non-Jewish songs. Says Maram Dilun Sano, what's the problem? Ein b'kach klum. There's no problem. You're allowed to. You're allowed to. So says that Rabbi Glatstein Solomon, we see there's an age-old debate whether you are allowed to use non-Jewish tunes to Kaddish and Kedusha, or you're not allowed to. Says the Rabbi Glatstein Solomon, what's the Nekudas HaMachloikes? What's the Machloikes? Whether you could use a non-Jewish tune or not. It's totally on the Chakira that we were just Chayker. The question is, a tune, music, does it create new thoughts? Or does it merely bring out the thoughts that are already in your mind? If a song has the capacity to make you think ideas that you never thought of before, then chas v'shalom to use a non-Jewish tune, even to Jewish words. Because even though in your mind you're thinking Kadosh, 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 but if that tune, which was first associated with Avodah Zarah, or the ideas of Goyim, is now ringing in your mind, you're going to start thinking thoughts of Avodah Zarah and Ritzicha and Arayos. But if music doesn't have that capacity, if a nigun does not have the ability to make a person think new ideas, but all it does is, it merely brings out from your heart the thoughts you already have. So if you're thinking in your mind, Kadosh, 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 then the music, all it's going to do is make you feel those thoughts more powerfully. It's not going to make you think thoughts you never had before. Well, it says Ramat Yisrael Solomon, Minhag Yisrael is that we are Mekel. And if you don't think we're Mekel, then you are being a naive where the songs come from. Therefore, says Ramat Yisrael Solomon, Minhag Yisrael is traditionally for hundreds and hundreds of years, the songs we sing in the shul were not created by tzaddikim, and even when they were, where did they come from? They were influenced by the climate and the environment. Minhag Yisrael, says Ramat Yisrael, is we allow such a thing. That means that we maintain that the power of a nigun is, it merely brings out from our hearts what we're already thinking. In other words, it's not going to cause us to think arayos, chas v'shalom. It's not going to cause us to have feelings of ritzicha. It merely, once it's put to holy words, it will make us feel those holy words more deeply. In fact, the Rambam himself bemoans the fact that at a chuppah or at a sudas mitzvah, if somebody wants to sing an Arabic song of praise to Hashem, oh, you can't do it, it's Goyish, it's Goyish, it's Goyish. And if somebody wants to sing a Jewish song of nonsense with ridiculous words, oh, it's Kodesh Kadasha. Says around, they're a bunch of fools. Who cares where the song comes from? It's all a matter of the words. If the words are nice and they're praising Hashem, even if they're in Arabic, it's a good thing to do. But if the words make no sense, the words are ridiculous, the fact that they're Jewish, quote unquote Jewish, doesn't make a difference. So we maintain, Be'ikr, that music's ability is merely to bring out from our hearts what's already latent there. But it will not engender new ideas that we never had before. By the way, interestingly, legend has it that the Chassam Sofer said that he's prepared to give up some of his Olam Haba to have a deeper understanding of the Chachma of music, because he felt that with a deeper understanding of the Chachma of music, he'd be able to reach higher levels of Ruach HaKodesh and so forth. And he was even prepared to give up some of his Olam Haba. By the way, there's a famous tshuva that Rav Shmuel Dishon asked Rav Moshe. Now I'm not going to say who, and if you don't know who, then you don't deserve to be told. About a certain individual who is a great composer, one of the greatest Jewish composers of all time. And says Rav Moshe, the unfortunately, there were reports that an Adam Kasher, not just an Adam Kasher, he was a Lamdin, that Niskalkel Darkoi, that he did things which were inappropriate, and what's reported in this tshuva is, what did he do? He gathered boys and girls together to dance together, which is a big problem, which is a problem, which is asur. Says, the question is, can we now sing his music? Can we sing his music? Can we sing his songs? Or do we have to find other composers with other tunes? Or could we stick with the golden oldies? After all, says Rav Moshe, this individual, now the reports are that he's involved in inappropriate behavior. Says Rav Moshe, Lanias daiti, that the 6th line, Eini roya b'zeh shum iser. I don't see any problem singing his songs. But now Rav Moshe was asked, are you allowed to sing the songs that he composed originally? Now I can't tell you which album was before, whether Hanasham Malach was before or after, I can't tell you. One thing I can tell you is that's good music, right? But the question is, can we sing his Nigunim? Says Rav Moshe, I don't see any Isser. Why? Because he composed it b'kashrusai. Says Rav Moshe, yeah, but now the report is that he's not acting appropriately. Rav Moshe invokes a Mishnah and Meiser Sheni. Can you imagine? Rav Moshe invokes a Mishnah and Meiser Sheni. Why? Because in Meiser Sheni it talks about the takanos of Yochanan Kohen Gadol, and they're still called takanos Yochanan Kohen Gadol. But what do you mean? Takanos Yochanan Kohen Gadol, but there are Rishonim that say that Yochanan Kohen Gadol was the same Yochanan Kohen Gadol who served B'Kuna Gadol 80 years and then became a Tzeduki, the Melech Shlomo says. And yet they're still called Takanos Yochanan Kohen Gadol. Wouldn't it be better to erase? So says Rav Moshe, well, what do you want? Klal Yisrael was already makabel the Takanos. There's no way to be mavatal it. But nobody's going to say that the music of this individual was a takana in Klal Yisrael, that you have to sing Lulei Sairascha as you march down to the chuppah. It's not takana in Klal Yisrael. But says Rav Moshe, fine. Avada, we're not going to be mavatel his takanos. But why call them takanas Yochanan Kohen Gadol? Wouldn't it be better not to give him that memory? After all, if he's a tzedaki, the fact that it's still called takanas Yochanan Kohen Gadol means that since he was masakin it b'kashrusai, there's no problem remembering somebody who became a rasha as long as you're remembering him from a time that he was a tzaddik. But says Rav Moshe, but the Rambam argues. The Rambam says that Yochanan Kohen Gadol was not the Yochanan Kohen Gadol who became a Tzeduki. So maybe the reason why the Rambam says that, because the Rambam cannot be soivel the fact that the Takanos are still called Takanos Yochanan Kohen Gadol, that the Rambam is forced to say this is a different Yochanan. And maybe that shows that the Rambam would say that you're not allowed to remember the things that a Rasha did even when he was kosher. That's why the Rambam is forced to say this was a different Yochanan. Says Rav Moshe, it's not mistaber. That's why the Rambam feels that that's not the same Yochanan as Yochanan Kohen Gadol. It's mistaber, the Rambam had other reasons why he doesn't want to say that's Yochanan Kohen Gadol. And therefore, why make a machlokes when we don't need to? If the Melech Shlomo says you're allowed to remember the takanos of a rasha at a time from when he was a tzaddik, then presumably the Rambam would agree. And then Rav Moshe says like this. It's mukhrach to say that everybody agrees that you're allowed to maintain something that a rasha did from a time they were a tzaddik. Why? Because halacha is a sefer Torah that a min wrote, you have to burn it. But what if a good guy wrote a sefer Torah and then he became a min? What do you do with the sefer Torah? The halacha is, Bereshis bara Elokim es Hashem, it says you lane it. But it's written by a min. Doesn't matter, but he wrote it when he was a good guy. So you say, no, but what are you going to do with that Sefer Torah? He wrote B'Kashrusa, it has Kedusha, you can't burn it. Says, how much begoin is it? Why are you allowed to read it? That means the Isser of remembering a Rasha is only remember what he did from the time he was a Rasha. But to remember what he did before he was a Rasha, that's mutter. Says Rav Moshe. And therefore in this situation, all the Nigunim, all the albums that came out before these reports, it's mutter. What about B'nai Torah and Balei Nefesh? What about machmirim? Could they sing these nigunim? Avada. There's no makom lahachmir whatsoever, says Rav Moshe, for someone to sing a nigun of someone who's considered a rasha, if those nigunim were composed at a time that they were a tzaddik. Says Rav Moshe, but what about the nigunim that were composed after somebody became a rasha? Says Rav Moshe, it's not clear that you can't sing those nigunim. If the nigunim are nice nigunim, and they're beautiful nigunim, and there's no kalas roish, by singing the nigun, you're remembering a rasha. He says it's mistaber the isser of Hanoch Hashem of a rasha is only on Tashmishe Kedusha. Sefer Torah he wrote, Tefillin that he wrote. But let's say the rasha wrote, he invented a machine. Let's say a guy who was a tzaddik, and he became a rasha, and he invented glasses. You can't wear glasses now. Or he invented technology. There's no halacha, says Rav Moshe. It's doubtful. Let's say he wrote a book about how to write script, or how to plant plants in the winter. You can't read the book just because he's a rasha. The isser of Hanoch Hashem rasha is only on a davar kadosh, not on a davar chayil. Says Rav Moshe, a nigun is not kadosh. Yeah, but we use it for kedusha. Yeah. You use it for Kedusha. You also use shoes when you're davening Kedusha. You're wearing shoes. It doesn't make your shoes Kadosh. You also wipe your mouth with a tissue. It doesn't make the tissue Kadosh, even though you're cleaning your mouth when you say Kedusha. A nigun is only a tool. There's no Kedusha in a nigun. Therefore, Sir Rav Moshe, it's mistaber that a nigun that was composed by a rasha, even after he became a rasha, you could sing it. But B'nai Torah and Balei Nefesh, they should be machmer not to sing the nigunim of someone who's a rasha if the nigunim were composed after they became a rasha. But says Rav Moshe, this man that we're talking about, who we're not saying who it is, he's not a rasha. He's not a koifer. He's a mammon. He's a mammon in the Rebbeinu Shalom. He's a mammon in the Torah. He's not a parutz either. One thing that he did was kalash roish and pritzos, to gather boys and girls together to dance. It's an avera. And it's kalas roish, and it's an isser. But it doesn't make him a rasha. He is what's called a mumar l'teyavain. And says Rav Moshe, not even a mumar l'teyavain. He's an avarion l'teyavain. Not everybody does an avera as a mumar. He's an avarion l'teyavain. There's an isser to sing the nigun of an avarion l'teyavain. Now what are we going to do? Every guy who puts out a CD, we're going to have to make a drisha v'chakira in his personal life. Does he speak Lashon Hara at the table? He's not an Eid Kedushin. He's not an Eid Kedushin. To get an Eid Kedushin, so we make sure he's a kosher v'yasher. Now all of a sudden, every time I pop a CD into the car, I have to make sure the guy doesn't speak Lashon Hara. He speaks Lashon Hara. That's his problem that he's going to go to Gehenna. Now I can't sing his song. So it says Rav Moshe, someone who's not a koifer, he's just an avarion in one inyan. Even for Balei Nefesh, and even for B'nai Torah, there's no Inyan not to sing his Nagunim. Baruch Hashem, we were stuck. We were going to do it. It's like Esa Ina Yel Harim Me'ayin Yava Yezri. Baruch Hashem, we were able to. Again, I don't know, not commenting on anybody's personal life, what he did, what he didn't do. Whatever he is. Baruch Hashem, I don't have to judge anybody. I'm just reading to you the tshuva. But one thing you see from Rav Moshe, one second, is that Rav Moshe is saying that a nigun per se does not have any inherent kedusha. You could take a nigun, even he says of a koifer, and meikar hadin, you could sing it to kedusha. Maybe Balei Nefesh shouldn't. But there's nothing inherent about the nigun. This is the tzad. In other words, machlokes achronim. Some achronim maintained to take a nigun from a guy. The nigun itself will maybe engender in your heart wrong feelings. But minhag Yisrael is we do sing the shiros from other umayis ha'olam, and we allow it to enter the davening because we maintain that a nigun per se is just a tool. And it depends what you use it for. All it does, it engenders and it brings out from your heart what's already there. So it says the Mashkiach, Ramat Yisrael Solomon.
One second. Just backtrack a second.
Yeah.
The Bach was made to church music to be sung in shul. The tune. Okay. So I have it say it.
I could tell you a lot of nigunim that you'd be very surprised where they go.
No, but church music was allowed. It was made for it.
Okay, interesting. So Rabbi Sai, Coming back to our question of why Achashverosh did not allow music at the Suda. Says Ramat Yisrael Solomon.
He went to help.
Says Ramat Yisrael Solomon, music is just a tool. Music does not engender in the heart new thoughts that you never would have thought. There's no way, if you have a good person and he hears, now I'm not talking about lyrics. Lyrics is a problem. But just the tune will merely bring out from your heart what you're already thinking. So let's examine then. What is deep down and embedded in the heart of a Jew? So we know the Rambam says that if, let's say, an individual who is compromising their wife's security and health, so under certain circumstances, what do? We force somebody to give a get until he says, I want to, right? Here's a guy, he's supposed to divorce his wife. We say, divorce your wife. No, I don't want to. You have to. No, if I have to, then it's not a good get. So we smack him. And we smack him. And he says, yeah, I want. But he doesn't want. We forced him. Says the Rambam like this. Somebody who doesn't want to give a get. The answer is, he says, look at number 15, the Rambam Hilchos Gerushin Perek Beis Ois Chaf. We're almost done. It's much earlier than we usually are. Relax, right? He says, Ein ze anos mimenu elohu anas azu v'dai Torah. Lefikach zeh she'eino roitz legaresh. Someone who doesn't want to divorce his wife, me'achar shu roitz liyas miYisrael. He wants to be a believing Jew. Roitz hu lasos kol ha-mitzvahs. He really deep down wants to do all the mitzvahs. U'lisrachik min averos. He wants to distance himself from sin. Right? Really deep down in the heart of a Jew, everybody wants to do the right thing. Rak, what's the only problem? V'yitzrahu shatakbay. It's the Yetzer Hara that has become strong. But when we smack him, we're not forcing him to give the get. We're just beating down the Yetzer Hara. Memela, the real feelings of his heart of Roitzani come out, like the Gemara says. Ribono shalaylam. Ritzaynenu lasais ritzayncha. Our will is to do your will. Umi ma'akev, we have ma'akvim. Sa'ar shabeisa, shibod malchios. Or like Rashi brings down in Vayikra. Right? Yakriv oisai, l'ritzaynai. Right? The pasuk Rashi brings down, look at number 4. Malamit shekoifenoisa. We force someone to bring a carbon. Yachal, I would think Baal Karcha. No, l'ritzaynai. How do you force someone to do something v'ritzaynai? Koifen oim oisai ad sheyam ha'roitzani. So Achashverosh knew that deep down in the heart of every Yid are the feelings of Ritzaynenu lasais ritzayncha, the feelings of the true desire to do the will of Hashem. Elamai, there are things that interfere with our Ratzayn. Our Yetzer Hara, Shibud Malchias. Achashverosh was afraid if he would allow music, not done, if he would allow music to be played, to be played at the Suda, it would counteract and contravene the whole purpose of the Suda. All of a sudden the Jews would hear music, and the feelings of Deveikus to Hashem and Avas Hashem would be brought to the forefront, and they would drop the whole Suda, and they would do Tshuva Shalema. And since the whole purpose of the Suda of Achashverosh was to get Klal Yisrael to sin, he was afraid through the koyach of music, through the power of music, it would engender Tshuva in Klal Yisrael, and that's why there was no music at the Suda. Rabbi said one last Tshuva here. Why am I doing this? Interesting Tshuva. It's halach l'maisa, and also have a very personal connection to this Tshuva. The question is Chazanim. Good old Chazanim. Are you allowed? Chazanim, they want to sing their Nagunim. Sometimes in order to fit the nigun into the words, they repeat words.
You're not allowed.
Are you? Oh, so here we have it. You heard it here first. You're not allowed to do it.
Have you been to the Gadol in Yerushalayim?
Are you, as a Chazan, allowed to repeat words? No. No, the answer is no. Now the answer is no. By the way, the reason I'm bringing this is because the tshuva is asked from Marina Rav Shlomo Zalman Gluck, who was my great grandfather. He was the shoyel of this shaila in the Igros Moshe. So he asked Rav Moshe, is the chazan allowed to repeat words? Well, Rav Moshe says chazanim that repeat words in Chazar Sashatz, vaday ein ruach chachamim noicha himen. The rabbis are not happy. We're not pleased. And it says, Moshe, what do you want from me? Already the Achronim cried out against this, but what can we do? The Chazanim do whatever they want, they don't listen to us. Says Moshe, now, there are 3 different categories. There's when they repeat words, but it means something. For example, in Yotzer Or, many Chazanim, Ki hu levadoi payal gevurois, Ki hu levadoi oisei chadashos, Ki hu levadoi payal... there's only one ki hu levadai. It's going ki hu levadai. The ki hu levadai is going on all of them, but the Chazanim, they like to repeat the ki hu levadai on each one. So it has meaning, it's just not necessary. So it says Rav Moshe, they're not allowed to do that, but it's not considered a hefsek. It's not considered a hefsek. However, if it has a false, if by repeating it has a perush sheker, like they say, V'yisangu mituvecha Shabbos, Shabbos, and they stick in Shabbos after everything. So there, it actually has a false meaning. Because V'yisangu mituvecha means that you should rejoice from Hashem's good. And now when we say Shabbos, it implies from the good of Shabbos. Says Rav Moshe, that's a hefsek. And they have to go back to the beginning. They have to repeat the bracha. What if it just has no meaning at all? So then the Moshe says that's like somebody just stumbling in their words and they don't have to be chayzer. So now the question is, do you need to be moicha? So if they're just going back and repeating Yismechu v'malchusecha, Yismechu v'malchusecha, and they're just repeating and they're going in order to that, then even though Ein ruach chachamim nochimenu, you don't have to protest. Because you only have to protest if someone says moedim moedim. However, if it has a false meaning or it has a strange meaning, then you should be moicha. But Rabbi said this is something that
no meaning. If it has no meaning, then you have
no meaning at all.
A little tune to stick it in.
I don't know. It sounds like it's just like iskal milule. So Rabbi said the chiddush over here is the words of the Ramban. The Ramban says, "Ein begashmius dak kemuzika." Music has a spiritual power, a spiritual pull, and that is why Achashverosh did not utilize music at his Suda. Shkaya.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.